Fly this chopper, and I'll marry you.
Engines thundered over the city skyline as laughter echoed from the glass rooftop. The blades of a silver helicopter spun lazily in the afternoon sun, shimmering against Los Angeles's gold-tinted skyline. CEO Vanessa Blake, flawless, fierce, and fearless, tilted her champagne glass and pointed toward the street below. "Fly this chopper, and I'll marry you," she shouted, her voice slicing through the noise. Her friends burst into laughter, doubling over as they peered down at the ragged man on the sidewalk. His coat was torn, his shoes mismatched. He stood still, unmoving, face shadowed beneath tangled curls. "You've really lost it, Vanessa," one of the board members laughed. "Picking on street trash now?" She smirked, swirling the drink in her hand. "Relax, I'm just having fun. Look at him. He's probably never seen a chopper this close." But the man didn't look away. His gaze rose, steady, unwavering. There was no fear in his eyes, just quiet, haunting calm. Security moved toward him. "Sir, you need to step away." Before they could touch him, he spoke. His voice carried clearly, even against the wind. "I've flown one better." The laughter died instantly. Vanessa blinked, caught off guard. Her friends exchanged confused glances before bursting out again in forced amusement. "Oh, please," one of them jeered. "You? In that outfit?" Marcus didn't answer. He simply stood there, eyes fixed on the chopper, as if the spinning blades stirred memories no one else could see. Vanessa placed a manicured hand on her hip. "All right, Mr. Pilot," she called out mockingly. "Why don't you come up here and show us how it's done?" He didn't move, didn't smile, just stared at the helicopter as if something sacred was being mocked. "Guess he's shy," another voice joked. "Probably drunk." Vanessa turned to her pilot. "Start her up. Let's show him what real flying looks like." The pilot hesitated, but obeyed. The chopper roared to life, blades slicing the air with sharp rhythm. Hair whipped around, champagne glasses rattled. The group clapped and cheered. But Vanessa kept glancing down. Marcus hadn't flinched. He was studying the helicopter like a surgeon watching a heartbeat monitor. "Nice, huh?" Vanessa shouted over the noise. "Bet you've never seen one this close before." Marcus finally looked up at her. "Sikorsky S-76, he said evenly. Vanessa frowned. "What did you say?" He raised his voice, calm and sure. "Twin-turbine engine, 6-blade rotor, and your nose trims off. A millimeter low on the right side." The rooftop went silent. Even the laughter froze. The pilot turned sharply. "What?" Marcus gestured lazily toward the aircraft. "You'll feel vibration at 70 knots. Whoever did the maintenance rushed the balancing." The pilot blinked, stunned. That's exactly what I told the crew chief this morning." Vanessa's lips parted slightly, confidence faltering. "You're bluffing." Marcus said nothing. His eyes held hers, steady, unreadable. The wind whipped his coat around his legs, dust swirling at his feet. Her friends whispered among themselves. How would a homeless guy know that? Maybe he worked at a hangar? Nah, that's too precise. Vanessa recovered quickly, forcing a grin. "Well, congratulations, Mr. Mystery. You win the guessing game. What's next? You tell me you can fix it too?" Marcus gave a faint shrug. "I could." The laughter resumed, nervous and uneven this time. But Vanessa couldn't shake the strange tightness in her chest. There was something in his tone. Too confident. Too familiar. She leaned toward her pilot. "You said there's something wrong with the trim?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah. Right side's off balance. He shouldn't know that. You'd only feel it mid-air." Vanessa looked back over the edge. Marcus was still there, watching. No sign of pride. No trace of arrogance. Just quiet, unnerving certainty. "What's your name?" she called. He hesitated, then answered. "Marcus? Marcus what?" He didn't reply. Instead, he turned and started walking away, disappearing into the alley shadows below. Vanessa's friends were already back to gossiping, laughing off the awkward tension. But her pilot hadn't moved. He was staring after Marcus, face pale. "Ma'am," he said quietly, stepping closer. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" He swallowed hard, eyes still locked on the street. "That guy's not crazy," she smirked. "He's homeless, not a hero." The pilot shook his head. "No, you don't understand." He leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Whoever he is. He's flown one of these before." The hum of the helicopter seemed to fade into silence. Vanessa's smile froze. For the first time that evening, she felt something unfamiliar crawl up her spine. Unease. Marcus was gone, swallowed by the city's glow, but his words still echoed through the wind. "I've flown one better." Vanessa couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard that voice again. Calm, unshaken, confident. "I've flown one better." She tossed aside the silk sheets and walked toward the glass window of her penthouse. Below, Los Angeles glimmered like a million little secrets. Yet tonight, all she saw was that man's face. The steady eyes, the way he spoke as if mocking her arrogance without saying a word. "Marcus," she whispered to herself. "Who are you?" By morning, her obsession had taken root. She called her assistant before sunrise. "Find me everything about that man outside the helipad last night." "The one who called himself Marcus." Her assistant yawned through the phone. "Homeless guy? Probably has a record, ma'am. Shouldn't take long." Hours later, he returned, looking uneasy. I couldn't find anything." Vanessa frowned. "What do you mean, nothing?" "No ID, no police file, no social record, not even a shelter entry. Just one name, Marcus Hale. It's like he doesn't exist." Vanessa's jaw tightened. Her curiosity turned to irritation. Everyone exists in a database. Check military records, aviation licenses, anything. He nodded, but his tone faltered. "Already did." "Nothing, ma'am." For the first time in years, Vanessa felt powerless. People were her business. She could read them, buy them, erase them. But Marcus Hale didn't fit in any box. He was invisible. Under the pale glow of a bridge several miles away, Marcus lay on cold concrete, a folded jacket for a pillow. His breath came slow and shallow as rain dripped through the cracks above. A distant siren echoed. He didn't stir. Only when a nightmare clawed through the silence did he jolt awake. A woman's scream, the roar of fire, the crushing sound of metal twisting. "Lena!" he gasped, sitting up, drenched in sweat. His chest heaved. Around him, the world was quiet again. The only sound was the steady drip of water beside his feet. He rubbed his face, trying to chase away the ghosts. The nightmares never stopped. He saw flashes, a chopper half consumed by flames, soldiers screaming for help, smoke thick as tar, and always, always her voice. "Marcus, go!" But he hadn't gone. He had stayed, fought the controls until the engine gave out. The explosion had taken everything. His crew, his purpose, his reason to live. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal tag, edges blackened and warped by heat. His fingers traced the letters. Hale, MUS, Air Rescue Commander. His throat tightened. He closed his eyes. "I should have gone down with them," he whispered. The next morning, the city came alive with its usual noise, horns, chatter, and the hum of luxury cars along the boulevard. Vanessa stepped out of her office building, her heels clicking against polished marble. Her driver waited by the car, door open, smile fixed. "Where to, ma'am?" "Just drive," she muttered. Her mind was still tangled with thoughts of Marcus. As the car rolled past a busy street corner, something caught her eye. There he was, Marcus, sitting on a curb, handing a sandwich to a small boy in tattered clothes. The boy grinned and ran off, waving the sandwich like a treasure. Marcus just smiled faintly, sipping from a paper cup of water. Vanessa leaned closer to the window. The morning light softened his features. No trace of madness, only quiet strength. He looked human, gentle even, her driver chuckled. That the same guy from last night? Guess you've got a new fan, ma'am. Vanessa's gaze didn't move. Just drive, she said softly. The car passed him, but she couldn't look away until he disappeared from view. For reasons she couldn't explain, guilt pricked at her chest. She had humiliated him in front of everyone, for sport, and yet here he was, helping someone with nothing to gain. Back at her office, her assistant rushed in again. Still no file, ma'am. It's like his life starts and ends on the street. Vanessa didn't answer. She stared out the window, eyes searching the crowd far below. Somewhere in the city, Marcus walked along the sidewalk, head bowed. He paused at a quiet park bench, sunlight cutting across his face. He pulled out the burnt dog tag again, turning it slowly in his hands. The metal caught the light, revealing the inscription, USAR Rescue Commander. Hail. His fingers trembled. The voices of the past whispered through the wind. The cries, the fire, the silence that followed. He closed his eyes, gripping the tag like a wound that refused to heal. I should have gone down with them, he murmured. The words drifted through the morning air, half confession, half curse, and vanished beneath the roar of another helicopter passing overhead. Vanessa stood before the mirror, her reflection crisp and flawless, but her thoughts anything but. She had barely touched her breakfast, her mind replaying the way Marcus had named that aircraft model like he'd built it himself. She tightened her blazer and spoke to her reflection. If he's pretending, I'll expose him. If not, I'll find out what game he's playing. Downstairs, the company hangar buzzed with the usual arrogance of the rich and bored. Engineers joking, assistants tapping at tablets, a faint smell of aviation fuel hanging in the air. Marcus was already there, standing near the massive doors, his hands buried in his coat pockets. He looked like a man out of place, surrounded by polished machines and sharper egos. Vanessa approached with her usual cold poise. Marcus Hale, right? He nodded slightly, eyes lowered. I've got a job for you. She gestured toward the sleek choppers lined up like trophies. The hangar needs cleaning, tools, floors, whatever the crew needs help with. You'll get paid hourly, no questions asked. He hesitated, as if weighing pride against survival. You don't have to do this. Vanessa folded her arms. Think of it as charity. For a brief second, his eyes met hers, steady, unreadable, and she felt something flicker inside her chest. Then he said quietly, All right, I'll take it. When he walked past her to start working, she expected the usual awkwardness, maybe clumsy fumbling. Instead, Marcus moved with calm precision. He handled each tool like it was familiar, checking alignment, measuring balance. Hey, watch the paint on that rotor, man, one mechanic sneered. These aren't junkyard toys. Marcus didn't even glance at him. I know, he said simply. This one's composite. You polish the surface too hard, you'll scratch the resin. The mechanic frowned. How the hell do you... Before he could finish, Marcus crouched and adjusted the tool rack, organizing every piece by size and function with surgical accuracy. The senior engineer, a grizzled man named Brooks, wandered over, curious. He watched for a minute, then muttered, Who taught you that rotation method? Marcus looked up. Same place you learned it, I imagine. Out there. He nodded toward the open sky. Brooks blinked, then chuckled. You served? Marcus didn't answer. He just kept working. By noon, even the mockery had quieted. His quiet skill spoke louder than any title could. Vanessa watched from the mezzanine above, irritation prickling at her. She had brought him here to expose him, not to watch her staff start admiring him. Her assistant leaned over. Ma'am, the men say he's got pilot hands. Vanessa shot him a look. Pilot hands? Yeah, you know. Light touch, confident grip. The way he checks those blades? You can't fake that. She turned away, pretending to be uninterested. But her mind was racing. Later that evening, as the hangar lights dimmed, Vanessa walked toward him again. He was wiping grease from his fingers, his jacket streaked with dust. "You're surprisingly good at pretending," she said. He looked up, faint amusement flickering in his eyes. "Pretending? Don't play coy. You handle those tools like a professional. But when I search your name, you vanish like a ghost." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I am one." Vanessa stepped closer. "So tell me, Ghost, you still think you can fly this thing?" She nodded toward the nearest chopper, silver under the hangar lights. Her tone was teasing, but her curiosity betrayed her. Marcus studied the helicopter for a moment, his expression softening, almost reverent. Then he turned to her. "I don't think," he said quietly. "I know." Something in his tone sent a chill down her spine. It wasn't arrogance. It was truth. A calm, unshakable truth. Her team had gathered a few feet away, whispering. "He's crazy," one murmured. "She's gonna get him fired." But Vanessa didn't back away. She tilted her head, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Then prove it tomorrow." Marcus blinked. "Tomorrow?" "Yeah," she said, folding her arms. "If you can take that chopper off the pad, fly it clean, and land it without a dent, I'll double your pay." For a long moment, he said nothing. Just silence, thick enough to feel. Then he gave a small nod, wiping his hands on a rag. "You already promised me something better," he said softly. Vanessa frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Marcus didn't answer. He tossed the rag into a bin and walked away, disappearing into the dim light at the far end of the hangar. Vanessa stood frozen, watching his shadow fade. The rhythmic hum of the lights buzzed in her ears, but her thoughts were louder. "Something better?" she whispered. For the first time, the woman who owned the sky didn't feel in control of it. The city was still half asleep when the mist rolled over the helipad. A pale sun struggled to break through the clouds, spilling thin light across the glass towers of downtown Los Angeles. The rhythmic hum of rotors waiting to wake filled the quiet air. Marcus arrived alone, an old, weathered jacket pulled tight against the chill. His boots echoed softly on the concrete as he stepped onto the pad. The same place where, days ago, he'd been mocked like a sideshow. Now, all eyes were on him. Vanessa Blake stood near the safety rail with her board members, designer sunglasses hiding her amusement. Cameras were ready, her executives whispering bets under their breath. "10 says he doesn't even start the engine." One laughed. Vanessa smirked. "He'll start it. He'll just have no idea what comes next." Marcus ignored the murmurs. He walked straight to the helicopter, the sleek Sikorsky S-76, and rested a hand on its metallic side as if greeting an old friend. Then he began to move, inspecting each rotor, each bolt, each instrument panel. His focus was surgical, his calm unsettling. "Does he really think he's flying that thing?" one of the board members whispered. Vanessa folded her arms. "Let him play. He'll make my morning." After 10 silent minutes of checks, Marcus climbed into the cockpit. His movements were precise, almost ritualistic. Switch by switch, light by light, he brought the machine to life. Vanessa leaned against the railing, her voice dripping with mockery. "You sure you remember which button is up, Captain?" No reply. Instead, the first whine of the turbines rose. The blades began to spin, slow at first, then faster, slicing the air, scattering mist into swirling halos. The sound built into a roar that shook the rooftop. The laughter died. Marcus's face was calm, eyes locked on the controls. Every movement was practiced, muscle memory awakening from years of silence. The helicopter lifted, steady and clean, hovering in perfect balance. Vanessa's smile faltered. "He's actually doing it." Within seconds, the Sikorsky climbed higher, the morning fog curling beneath it like smoke from the past. Marcus pulled gently on the cyclic, angling the chopper toward the skyline. He banked left, then right, smooth, graceful, deliberate. The machine obeyed him like it remembered his touch. The board gasped as he looped around the skyscrapers, the city reflecting on the spinning blades, and for a moment, just a moment, Marcus wasn't the man they mocked. He was a pilot again. But then, something inside him cracked. The sound of rotor blades blurred into something else. Gunfire, explosions, a woman's scream. In his mind, the skyline dissolved into smoke and chaos. He saw flashes of the desert, of a burning helicopter, of soldiers shouting over comms. Mayday! We're hit! Marcus, pull up! He jerked in the cockpit, sweat breaking across his brow. His breathing quickened. No, no, not again. The ghostly voice of a woman echoed in his ears. You promised me you'd come back. His grip trembled on the control stick. The helicopter wobbled mid-air. Down below, Vanessa's heart stopped. Is he crashing? Someone shouted. Shut up! Vanessa barked, eyes locked on the trembling aircraft. Marcus squeezed his eyes shut, forcing the memory back into the darkness. You're not there, he whispered to himself. You're not there anymore. He steadied his hand, forcing the chopper level again. The blades stabilized, slicing cleanly through the air. Seconds later, the Sikorsky eased back toward the helipad. The landing was uneven, a soft skid, then a thud, but safe. Silence. Then applause erupted. Executives cheered. Someone whistled. Vanessa didn't move. She just stared at him through the settling mist. The man who had turned her cruel dare into a miracle. Marcus sat still in the cockpit, chest heaving. His knuckles were white on the controls. Slowly, he unbuckled the harness and stepped out, his face pale, his eyes distant. The applause faded into murmurs as he stumbled forward. Vanessa took a step toward him. Marcus? He didn't seem to hear her. He dropped to one knee, clutching something at his chest. A small, scorched piece of metal. A dog tag. His lips moved, the words barely a breath. Lena, I failed you. Vanessa froze. Who's Lena? He looked up at her, eyes wet with a pain she couldn't name. My wife, he whispered. Then his body gave out. Marcus collapsed onto the helipad as the wind from the still-turning blades swept over them both, carrying the ghosts of a sky he could never escape. Vanessa couldn't shake the name. Lena Hale. It echoed in her mind long after Marcus collapsed on the helipad. She told herself it was just curiosity, a CEO's instinct to know everything. But the truth was simpler and harder. Something about the way he said that name had cracked her perfectly polished armor. By morning, she was in her office, eyes fixed on her laptop screen as her assistant scrolled through news archives. Lena Hale, she repeated softly, fingers tapping the desk. Find her, he hesitated. Ma'am, you sure that's old news? Just do it. Minutes turned into an hour before the assistant spoke again, his voice quieter now. I think I found something. Vanessa turned the screen toward her. A headline from 6 years ago. CEO's daughter and Air Force pilot lost in classified crash over Eastern Ridge. Her breath hitched. Beneath the headline was a photo, a young woman with bright eyes and a uniformed man standing beside her. Smiling. Proud. Alive. Marcus Hale. Vanessa scrolled through the article, her pulse hammering. Lena Hale, daughter of Richard Hale, founder of Hale Dynamics, a defense conglomerate. Engaged to Captain Marcus Hale, commander in the U.S. Air Rescue Unit. Both presumed dead after their helicopter went down during a covert evacuation in a conflict zone. Only one body was ever recovered. Marcus was officially declared killed in action. Vanessa leaned back, staring at the screen as the pieces fell together. The quiet confidence, the way he touched the helicopter, the precision, the haunted look in his eyes when he said her name. He wasn't a fraud. He was a ghost who'd survived his own grave. For a long time, she just sat there, feeling something unfamiliar stir inside her chest. Not pity, but reverence. Then, her vision blurred into the memory that wasn't hers. Marcus's memory, bleeding through the headlines, the roar of gunfire, smoke choking the air. Marcus gripped the flight controls, shouting over the comms. "Hold on! We're going down!" The world tilted, the ground spinning into chaos. The chopper slammed hard, metal screaming as fire erupted from the tail. "Lena!" he shouted, coughing through the smoke. He kicked open the cockpit door, flames licking at his sleeves. She was pinned behind twisted steel, reaching toward him. "Marcus! I've got you!" He pulled, every muscle straining, but the wreckage wouldn't move. Her hand slipped. The fuel ignited. The explosion tore the world apart. He woke days later in a military hospital, bandaged from head to toe, lungs scorched, soul in ruins. They told him Lena didn't make it. They told him he'd been lucky to live. But Marcus didn't feel lucky. He vanished soon after. No trace, no ID, no contact with the Hale family. A man running from his own name. Vanessa blinked, the imaginary fire fading back into the sterile glow of her office. Her reflection in the laptop screen looked like a stranger. How many times had she mocked him, called him crazy, treated him like dirt under her heels? A wave of shame washed over her, heavy and cold. She whispered to herself, "You fool! He was the real thing all along." She stood abruptly. "Where is he?" Her assistant looked startled. "Who, ma'am?" "Marcus, the man from the hangar. Where is he now?" The assistant hesitated. "He didn't come in today. The engineers said he cleared his things last night." "What things?" "A single jacket and a metal box. That's all." Vanessa didn't even answer. She was already walking, fast, her heels echoing down the corridor toward the hangar. The space was quiet. Too quiet. The helicopter gleamed under the morning light, perfectly maintained. But Marcus was gone. She walked to the workbench where he'd kept his tools. Everything was neatly arranged, wiped clean. The only thing left behind was the silence and her regret. For a long moment, she stood there, listening to the faint hum of the city outside. Then something caught her eye. A small metallic glint on the hood of her car parked nearby. She frowned and stepped closer. It was his dog tag. Her heart pounded as she picked it up, the metal warm from the sun. It was the same one he'd clutched after landing the chopper. But now, there were new words scratched beneath the old engraving. For those who still believe in redemption. Vanessa's throat tightened. She pressed the tag against her palm, staring at the sky above the hangar. Marcus Hale had disappeared once before, buried under the world's indifference, and now he'd vanished again. But this time, he left behind something heavier than guilt. Hope. Sirens wailed across the city skyline as breaking news flooded every screen in Los Angeles. Blake Aerotech helicopter in distress. Autopilot failure. Pilot unconscious. 7 executives on board, including CEO Vanessa Blake. The chopper hovered dangerously over downtown, its rotors whining against the growing storm. Winds howled, lightning cracked through the gray. Traffic below had frozen. Everyone watching, waiting for disaster. Inside the cockpit, Vanessa's voice trembled over the radio. "We're losing altitude! Mayday! Mayday!" Static swallowed her words. No one answered. Control towers scrambled. Technicians shouted coordinates, but there was no pilot who could reach the site in time. The storm had closed off the skies, and then, through the chaos of flashing red lights and panicked faces, a calm voice cut through. "Which pad?" The airfield officer spun around. Marcus Hale stood in the doorway, soaked from the rain, eyes steady as steel. The officer hesitated, disbelief flashing across his face. You can't be serious. You're not cleared." Marcus stepped forward, grabbing a headset. "You want them alive or not?" The officer froze, then pointed to the radar screen. Pad C, altitude dropping fast. Marcus nodded once. No hesitation. He moved like a man who'd done this 1,000 times, because he had. Minutes later, he was inside the reserve chopper, hands on the controls, rain pelting the windshield. He spoke calmly into the radio. "Control, this is Hale. Patch me to the distressed unit." Vanessa's panicked breathing filled his headset. Who is this?" "It's me," Marcus said quietly. "Marcus Hale. Vanessa, listen to me." For a moment, there was only static. Then her voice broke, half disbelief, half hope. "Marcus!" He smiled faintly. "Yeah, still flying." Her sob caught in her throat. "We're spinning. Marcus, the pilot's out cold." "Okay," he interrupted gently, his tone a steady anchor against the chaos. "Look at the horizon. Don't focus on the panic. You can do this." "I've got you." He adjusted his throttle, aligning his path with her coordinates. The storm slammed into his rotor blades, but his hands didn't shake. "Talk to me, Vanessa. Altimeter reading? 2,000 feet, dropping fast." "All right. Switch to manual override. Button left of the throttle. Hold it. Good. Now breathe. Slow and even." Lightning flashed. The city blurred below them. Marcus steadied his breathing, forcing calm into every word. "You're not alone. I'm coming in." Control watched in awe as two choppers, one dying, one determined, danced through the storm, tracing desperate spirals toward each other. When Marcus finally reached visual contact, he could see her through the rain-smeared glass. Pale, terrified, but fighting. "Hold altitude." "You're doing great," he said softly. Her eyes met his across the stormy sky. "You shouldn't be here," he smiled. "I've been here before." With that, he surged forward, positioning his craft alongside hers. His voice stayed low, steady. "Follow my movements. Ease the collective. That's it. You're lighter now." Lightning struck close enough to shake both choppers. The world flashed white. Vanessa gasped, the rotor yawing left. "Marcus!" "I'm here. Trust your instincts. You've got this." His words reached her through the roar, through fear, through every wall she'd built around herself. She steadied the control. The storm began to thin. The skyscrapers below were no longer blurs. They were landmarks again. "Bring her home," Marcus said. Same pad. "You remember the one? The helipad, the rooftop where she'd once mocked him." Minutes later, both helicopters descended through the mist, the storm's rage dying into rain. The first chopper touched down, rough but safe. Vanessa's board members gasped, crying, clinging to one another. Then Marcus landed beside them, smooth as silk, his machine humming quietly before the rotors slowed. For a moment, there was silence. No sound but the soft patter of rain. Then applause erupted. Cheers, sobs, disbelief. Vanessa tore off her headset and stumbled out, rain washing her face. She ran across the pad to where Marcus was climbing down. His jacket was torn, his face streaked with sweat and rain, but his eyes still carried that same unshakable calm. She stopped in front of him, trembling. "You just saved us." Again, Marcus smiled faintly, breathless but peaceful. "Guess I earned that marriage bet, huh?" She laughed through her tears, shaking her head. "You idiot," he chuckled softly. "Takes one to mock one." The paramedics rushed past, but for that instant, the world shrank to just them. The proud CEO and the fallen pilot, both stripped of their walls, standing where pride once met mercy. Vanessa took his hand. "You didn't just save us. You saved me." Marcus looked toward the skyline, the sun breaking faintly through the clouds. "Maybe we both found what we were looking for." He handed her his dog tag. "Keep it. Not as guilt, as reminder. Never judge a soul by its scars." As the sirens faded, she looked up at him, the rain turning golden in the morning light. "Marcus," she whispered. "What happens now?" He smiled. the kind that carried peace after years of torment. Now, we fly again. The camera of the world zoomed out. Two figures standing on a rooftop where humiliation had become redemption. Moral: true worth isn't measured by wealth, power, or titles, but by the courage to rise again when the world has already buried you. If this story touched your heart, share it. Someone out there still believes in second chances. The steady hum of the hospital machines was the only sound in the small recovery room. Soft sunlight filtered through the blinds, drawing pale stripes across Marcus's bandaged hands. His eyes were closed, not in pain, but in peace, the kind of quiet that follows years of running. The door creaked open. The scent of lilies drifted in before Vanessa did. She stood in the doorway for a long moment, her usual confidence gone, her tailored suit replaced by something simple. Human. Marcus opened his eyes, faint amusement flickering in them. Didn't think CEOs delivered flowers themselves. She managed a small smile, setting the vase by his bedside. I owed someone an apology. Thought I should do it in person. He watched her for a moment, then nodded slowly. Go on. Vanessa took a deep breath. Marcus, I was cruel. I saw you standing there that day, and I thought it would be funny. I thought power gave me the right to look down. Her voice cracked. You could have let me die in that helicopter. But you didn't. Silence hung between them. Heavy. Honest. Marcus shifted slightly, wincing from the movement. You know, he said quietly, pride is just another kind of wound. Some people bleed from it, others hide behind it. Her eyes glistened. So, you forgive me? He smiled faintly. Already did. The moment I saw you holding that stick steady in the storm. That wasn't pride flying that chopper, Vanessa. That was courage. She exhaled shakily, relief softening her posture. Then let me make it right. Not just to you, but to others like you. I've been thinking, what if we start a program? A place where veterans, pilots, even homeless men like... He raised a brow. Like me? She nodded. Like you. A second chance, training, jobs, purpose. Marcus leaned back, eyes thoughtful. And what would you call it? I don't know yet, she admitted. But I'd want you to help me build it. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, softly, no. The word hit her like a sudden gust. No? He met her eyes. Not unless you promise me something, she frowned. What's that? That this program won't be about pity, he said firmly. No charity banners, no hollow speeches. People don't need saving. They need purpose. Promise me that's what it'll stand for. Vanessa's throat tightened. I promise. Marcus smiled. Not the tired smile of a man burdened by loss, but one that hinted at renewal. Then I'm in. She reached into her bag and handed him a folder. Inside was a proposal draft, the header freshly printed. The Lena Foundation. Empowering veterans, rebuilding purpose. Marcus's hands trembled slightly as he traced the name. His late wife's name. You remembered. I didn't just remember, Vanessa said softly. I wanted her story, your story, to mean something again. His eyes shimmered with emotion he rarely allowed to surface. Lena would have liked that. Weeks later, the Foundation's first training program opened in a renovated hangar, the same one Marcus had once cleaned. Dozens of men and women in faded uniforms stood tall again, eyes bright with hope. The walls bore no corporate logos, no glamour. Only a simple motto painted above the entrance. Purpose before pride. Vanessa watched from the front row as Marcus walked onto the stage. The applause was immediate, thunderous, heartfelt. Some of the trainees saluted him as if instinctively recognizing one of their own. He adjusted the microphone, smiling faintly. I'm not here to teach you how to fly, he began, I'm here to remind you that you still can. The world may forget what you've done, but that doesn't mean your wings are gone. A ripple of emotion swept through the crowd. He paused, looking at Vanessa in the front row. I used to think redemption meant erasing the past. Turns out, it just means giving it purpose. The audience rose to their feet, clapping, cheering his name. Marcus! 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 Vanessa's vision blurred as she clapped with them, pride swelling in her chest. The man she had once mocked now stood as a symbol of everything she hoped to become. Humble, strong, unbroken. Marcus looked out over the sea of faces, his eyes shining beneath the hangar lights. For the first time in years, he wasn't haunted by flames or ghosts. He was home. And as the chants grew louder, echoing through the hangar like the roar of an engine taking flight, Vanessa knew this wasn't just his redemption, it was theirs. The sun hung low over the city, washing the skyline in gold and rose. The rhythmic thrum of helicopter blades echoed faintly through the air. Steady, confident, alive. Marcus stood at the edge of the rooftop helipad, his arms folded loosely, watching 3 trainee pilots lift off in perfect formation. Their aircraft gleamed against the fading light like silver birds finally remembering how to fly. A faint smile curved his lips. A year ago, he had been the broken one, the forgotten soldier, the mocked pilot. Now, he was their teacher, their steady voice in the storm. Below, the hangar doors of the Lena Foundation stood open, revealing the banner Vanessa had insisted on repainting herself. Purpose before pride. Marcus turned as the sound of heels clicking against concrete broke the moment's stillness. But this time, it wasn't the sharp echo of authority. It was soft, unhurried. Vanessa Blake walked toward him, not in her usual CEO armor of sleek suits and cold confidence, but in a simple cream dress that caught the last rays of sunlight. Her hair was tied back loosely, and for the first time, she looked entirely human. Not the woman who ran an empire, but someone who had learned how to feel again. I thought I'd find you up here, she said, stopping beside him. Where else would I be? Marcus replied, his voice warm. You know I like to make sure they remember which way's up. Vanessa laughed softly. They do, because of you, he gave her a sideways glance. You've changed too. No phone glued to your hand, no assistant trailing behind. I left them downstairs, she said, then smiled. I wanted to give you something first. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box, holding it out to him. Marcus frowned playfully. You know I don't take bribes, Miss Blake. Just open it, she said, rolling her eyes. Inside lay a simple silver keychain, a miniature helicopter, its rotor blades delicate and gleaming. On the underside, something was engraved. Marcus ran his thumb over the words, reading aloud in a low murmur, Fly this, and I'll believe again. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. Then a quiet laugh escaped him, genuine, deep. Careful, Miss Blake, he said, looking up at her. I might take that seriously. She met his gaze, her expression soft. Maybe I want you to. The air between them shifted, gentle but full of meaning. The sunset painted her face in shades of amber and rose, and for the first time, Marcus realized how much had changed between them. Once, she had been the storm. Now, she was part of the calm. He looked back at the sky, where one of the trainee choppers traced a steady path toward the horizon. You know, he said quietly, a year ago, I didn't think I'd ever set foot in a cockpit again. Thought the world had grounded me for good. And now, he smiled, I teach people how to rise again. She exhaled softly. You do more than that, Marcus. You remind them that they deserve to. A comfortable silence followed. The city lights began to blink awake below, scattered like stars fallen to earth. Vanessa tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. You ever think about flying for yourself again? Not for training, not for rescue, just flying. He turned to her, eyes glinting. Every day, but maybe next time I'll bring company. Her lips curved upward, and for a fleeting second, it wasn't clear whether he meant her or not. And maybe that was the beauty of it. The wind picked up as another helicopter rose in the distance, its blades cutting through the golden haze. Marcus lifted the keychain, watching it catch the light. Funny, he murmured. The same thing that once broke me, gave me wings again. Vanessa nodded. That's what second chances do. He looked at her, smiling faintly. Then maybe it's time we both took one. She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes said everything words couldn't. As the chopper above them soared higher, the camera of life seemed to pull back, the rooftop growing smaller, the two figures standing side by side against the glow of the horizon. The world below was noisy, flawed, uncertain. But up here, there was peace. A final gust of wind lifted Vanessa's hair, and she laughed softly, the sound mixing with the hum of the helicopter overhead. Marcus slipped the keychain into his pocket and looked up at the fading sky. Fly this, and I'll believe again, he whispered. And somewhere above them, the sky answered, with the steady heartbeat of rotor blades, with the promise of tomorrow, with the quiet truth of redemption. Sometimes, the people we mock are the ones carrying wings broken by pain. True power isn't in pride, it's in compassion. Share this story if you believe everyone deserves a second chance.